Hello, thank you for joining us this afternoon for the third of our series on change for tourism. This is Into Destination, Research and Consultancy in Tourism. My name is Neda Espinosa, the CEO of Into Destination. We developed these webinars that is a great investment of our time, of our team, because we think that we can help find solutions to some of the issues that our tourism businesses and destinations are facing nowadays with coexisting with COVID-19 for many months to come. So we bring in people that we know for quite a long time, or newer acquaintances that we along the work we do we find and encounter that are professionals that have great breadth of knowledge that they can bring into our discussions, and for the audience to actually we do it for the audience to find responses to their questions. So thank you to the audience that are joining us today. Thank you to Mara, Damià, and Neda, whom I'll present in a minute. So, Mara, dear friend, CISET Director, Mara Manente, Director of CISET, the International Center for Studies on Tourism Economics, based in Venice, linked to the University Ca' Foscari in Venice, and to the region of Veneto as well. So she's been the director of CISET for over 29 years. It's a great experience, and she's accompanied with a group of amazing females, women, that I get to know quite a lot of them in the past, so hello to them as well. Great professionals in CISET that have been helping many destinations in Italy and abroad to develop tourism in a competitive way, in a sustainable way as well. So she's part of the UNWTO steering committee on tourism statistics and tourism satellite account, national pivot of the Blue Mood program. Also, she is a consultant for many countries and international tourism institutions, and also commission director generals as well. So it's great to have you here. Also, I forgot, in CISET, at CISET, they have a master's degree that is pretty relevant. Many students from many parts of the world, not just Italy, select this master's on tourism economics and tourism policy, and she's been lecturing there for quite some time, and her team as well. Damià, dear friend as well, she's geographer and diploma in tourism, master's degree in tourism business management from the University of Canterbury in New Zealand, PhD in tourism from the University of Barcelona, has been the coordinator of Barcelona Tourism Observatory, not just the city but also the province, for over 10 years, and most recently he is the marketing and research director for the Catalan Tourism Board. Really happy to have you as well. And Neda is a new acquaintance, as I was saying. We also bring new blood to our crowd of friends and colleagues in the profession, because we met Neda's colleague Srinka in Barcelona, actually, in a MED program event in June 2019, actually. So Neda Telisman-Kosuta is a senior researcher at the Institute for Tourism in Zagreb, Croatia. She's a researcher with a lot of interest, but mostly in terms of branding and image for tourism destinations to deliver their message, also to help the competitiveness of tourism development and destination development. She's been lecturing for many years, not only in Zagreb, but also in many parts of Croatia. She holds a master's degree in travel and tourism management from George Washington University. So thank you very much to the three of you for being with us today. The topic of today is tourism coexisting with COVID-19 in European destinations. It's pretty obvious why we selected this topic, but also we do evaluation service after every of our webinars. Is also topics that the audience suggests. It was not suggested this specifically, but things that connected to this topic. So I'll pose a series of questions, and then towards the end we will give the audience the option, of course, to pose the questions, because these sessions are for them. So the idea is that destinations we are suffering this crisis. It's not over yet. Just because we get out of the lockdown doesn't mean that we are over it, because we have to live with it, with this illness around us for many months till we are all with the vaccine in our blood. So I would like to start asking that the strategies that your destinations, so Veneto as a region, Catalonia as a region as well, and Croatia as a country, but also with the look of some of the experiences at the regional level, what kind of strategies have they been implementing and are thinking on implement to get out of this, to survive this crisis? Thank you very much for participating and sharing your knowledge.
The different markets. So starting from these basic elements, two main strategies. The first one is about the well-being of customers and employees. So time until now, I'm receiving day by day a lot of information from the different associations about this point, the protocols in order to manage the opening of the different tourism activities. And all the different levels, from the municipal level through the regional level till the national one, are debating about this problem. So the first strategy is to identify and to produce protocols for health security, able to allow the different typologies of tourism activities to open starting from June, more or less. This is the first one strategy. What about the second one, which is also linked not to the crisis now, but how to restart? Mm-hmm. And from this point of view, the main strategy is to promote, to identify the off of the beaten tracks destinations and itineraries. Think that in the Veneto region we have 8 UNESCO heritage destinations. And one of the main aspects within this strategy is to promote them. One of them is quite recently is the Prosecco Hills, which is a very nice place linked to different and not yet in the tourism side itineraries from this perspective. So it's destinations, itineraries that can by themselves to help to promote also health conditions, distance between people, etc. So to have the possibility to have your holiday within a green context. Linked to that is the experiential tourism. So to promote this way to interpret the territory. So starting from the idea that we don't have to imagine mass tourism, not only because it is not a good thing for destinations, but because of also this specific situation. So health conditions which are becoming a competitive element, and off of the beaten track, and experiential tourism from the other side.
Thank you very much, Mara. Very clear and so good. Going away from that over tourism perspective, yeah. So Damià, if you please.
Right. There are many coincidence with Mara's explanation about the strategies. We are trying to put in order in two also sides about the strategy. One is short-term strategy, which of course is focusing in the idea of the market is stuck and we are stuck in our own homes. So in this situation, basically, one of the actions that we started from the beginning was the staycation activities. So just to move, conduct most of the experiences that we're commercializing through our websites and our channels, to focus with the idea that from home the people could experience our destination. So we try to push all the experiences based in virtual tours around Catalonia, around the main attractions in Catalonia. We did try to help our companies in order that they could use our channels in order to expose or diffuse their experiences through our channels. So our channels was one of the first things we did. Second thing, in the first short-term strategy was the communication with all our offer. In the moment where everyone had to be at home, the shutdown of the accommodation companies, etc. So one of the things that we thought that was very important is to create a very close community with them, to be with them, try to carry with them the same problems, trying to sensibilize about the situation. So with the idea of stay home, we are here trying to hold with this together. So it was something that the message was powerful, and we focus about this, and we just to leave the other type of promotion activities and marketing that we're working at that time. The third aspect in the first short-term strategy was how to survive. So Mara was explaining already that the emergencies that many companies had just literally to keep they open, and so here has been really has been a hit in our society, and more specifically in our sector. So in this case, so we were involved in how to develop the different measures about the funds, the facilities that we create from the government in order to the people could have access to the credit lines. Also, protocols has been established for the Spanish government and how to apply, and that was another important aspect that we've been busy in the last weeks. And finally, has been also a time to rethink. This is one of the points also, I think I do agree with Mara. Time to think about the transformation. Once we'll be out there, we'll be different. Probably individually, some of us will living better on worse conditions these days, but as a society, as a group, that is going to be a big break. And we have to consider from the beginning what type of aspects we have to consider for reconnection to the world. So it has been a time also to think about that, where aspects of based on what type of the tourism products we will have to develop. Try to go even beyond about the experience. Try to think that probably one of the main needs that the people will have once will be there is the social contact, the social affairs between people. So probably more than think about where you're going to go or what you're going to do, is with who you're going to be, and to create the atmosphere, to create the environment for all these people that would feel comfortable among us. And knowing that the borders are closed at this of the moment, the medium term will be based in our local markets. And our local markets, all the products and experiences that were worked until then and until a few weeks ago were based in a short-term type of activities for them. So now we have to learn how to transform our experiences for our own local markets, which is also a good challenge for many of our companies, which obligates to them to exchange more solutions between them, to create a stronger ecosystem, to create more touring ideas around our region, and to create more beach and mountain activities, something that will be a mix, prioritizing this and maybe other type of activities. So that is more or less the focus on the strategy right now from Catalonia.
Thank you very much. And we'll elaborate a bit more on that transformation that both of you were talking about in further questions. And it's great that you brought it up already. So Neda, please. Your microphone is muted. And your image is free.
Yes, I have just unmuted my
Okay. Perfect.
Well, so in Croatia, the emphasis for the past 2 months has really been on survival and on very short-term measures in order for the sector to survive, in order for the economy to survive. If you keep in mind that tourism is a hugely important industry to us, this crisis is really creating problems not just within the tourism sector, but for the economy in general. So the emphasis here has been on survival and on short-term measures. And first of all, and there's basically two main strategic directions that are being taken.
Neda? Hello?
A number of them have been brought by the government on for the economic sector as a whole. So here we about or things that have been brought about by the government are monetary subsidies, for example, for all employees, exemptions or postponements of various taxes, moratoriums, a 3-month moratorium actually on loan repayment, and a program of low interest loans for working capital. So this is all across the economic sector of the country. In tourism specifically, again, we're seeing such short-term measures as interest-free loans that are being made available for heavily hit companies, favorable loans for liquidity of tourism boards. Tourism boards are having a lot of problems because their financing is dependent on the tourism tax. So they're basically being left without financing at this point. So these loans, to keep them stable, are very important for them. Also, for example, we're seeing that the flat rate tourism tax for that is paid by owners of rental apartments has also been reduced by 50%. There's various concession fees that are being annulled or postponed. Deadlines for the categorization or recategorization of accommodation facilities are also being extended. It's these types of things. So these very, very short-term concrete economic measures mostly. There's also the second strategic direction is, of course, regarding the reopening of tourism facilities. And here there's been this gradual approach. It's a 3-phase approach to opening up. Exiting this lockdown stage, and actually as of this week, as of this Monday, we've entered the 3rd stage. So right now all the tourism facilities can be open. It's not that they're necessarily open, that's a business decision, but they can be open. So all the accommodations, the restaurants, the cafes, the shops, transportation, we're finally having unrestricted movement within the country being restored. At the same time, the Croatian Institute of Public Health for facilities that are opening up, regulating how they can work actually, and these protocols are actually turning out to be a lot less restrictive than we thought they would be, and they have to do mostly with respecting social distancing and higher hygiene measures. So those are the two main areas of action. There are some other strategies, of course, that are going on. One is also a shift towards the domestic market, but in Croatia, the domestic market, unlike larger countries such as Italy or Spain, or not to mention France or Germany, but the domestic market in Croatia is very, very small. And we're, of course, aware that no matter what we do, that will not help us. So for us, the opening up of borders, opening up of international borders is very, very important. And there's been a lot of bilateral talks. At this point, it's just talks regarding corridors between countries, or maybe even these bubbles between countries that have controlled their pandemic. And there's a lot of the public opinion here, or at least within the tourism professionals, the opinion is that these bilateral talks are very, very important. There is a meeting in Brussels today, as you mentioned, about this issue, and I don't know what international borders is the start of the tourism of tourism. And this is really the strategy. The opening up of borders is the main strategy that everybody's been waiting for here. I will also leave the transformation issues and ideas for one of the next questions that you will be posing to us, but there has been thinking, of course, along those lines as well, what this crisis can do for us, or what the results can be in the long term. But right now, the emphasis is really on the short term and on survival.
Fair enough, fair enough. We do need to survive for sure. Okay, thank you very much for all of that. And I'm aware that it's critical and focusing on the most immediate, because specifically that's what the private sector was asking the governments to help. And you pointed out a very important point, Neda, on how many of the administrations in Europe and beyond Europe finance themselves. And it's with the taxes that usually will come because visitors come as well. and now we have that issue there. So I move to specifically that point in the sense of governance model. How have you been working in the sense of the governance of your regions or the country in the regions? And how is this perhaps being an opportunity to work even farther together? Or the opposite, perhaps, but usually when we are, there are friends that come up of nowhere also when we are in bad situations. So perhaps you can elaborate on that governance model you had and the one that perhaps you are reinforcing now. If you want, Damià, could you start? You have the microphone muted.
Here we are. About the governance, it seems that to be as we are makes sometimes the things easier in terms of to find agreements with some other institutions than for long term we couldn't get. It's very curious, right? And now I'm talking about promotion, for instance, or marketing actions doing together. And that also is important to know about what markets you point in your strategy. So in this short-term market, it's for us, it's our national market, as Neda also was saying. So in this case, meanwhile, the Catalan Tourist Board was traditionally facing the international markets, and then the local tourist boards were facing more local markets. This is something that, for responsibility and knowing that the public money will be very limited in the following months. Force us to work more in a team, more together, putting in the same fund, and even organizing the same promotion under the same claim, even sharing the different logos all together, which has all sense right now. From this point of view, that's been easier work and find interesting agreements among us in order to coordinate the type of promotion they want to do inline.
Thank you. Neda? It's muted now.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay. Well, regarding the governance in Croatian tourism, before the crisis and now, basically our governance model consists of several pyramid-like shaped systems that are organized from the national through regional down to the local level. And these systems all cooperate, whether vertically or horizontally. Well, sometimes they don't cooperate that well, but they do cooperate. And basically, it's if you will, it's like a grid-like.
We have. Sorry, Neda.
About is, of course, at national level with.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Can I interrupt you for a second? Are you depending on Wi-Fi? Because it seems that it breaks out a bit. It's just that if you have the possibility to move to cable, it perhaps improves. I don't know if you have that chance.
Break up a lot. I don't know. It usually works really well.
Okay. All right. Let's try to continue. It's just that if you had cable, we could try that out.
Okay, I'll try to move, but usually it works really well. Okay.
All right. So if you want, perhaps we jump to Mara while Neda adjusts herself. with internet that sometimes does these things to us. Or are you ready already, Neda?
I'm ready. I'm ready. Ah, no. May I?
I'm not so sure if Neda is changing or not. So let's go for it, Mara, and then yes, thank you.
No, I will try to move, and maybe if you can go on to Mara, I will move in the meantime.
Yes, perfect. That's what we're going to be doing. Thank you.
Okay. So concerning governance in the Veneto region, first of all, I would like to tell you that the territory of the region is organized in 15 destination management organizations. This means that from a certain point of view, it was bad. From another point of view, it was good. Bad, why? Because 15 destination management organizations means that when you have to give the same message, it is quite difficult to coordinate. At the same time, the fact that they control the territory was very good because they exactly know what that specific part of the territory, the mountains, the lake, etc., have to do in order to be able to react to the crisis. The second point, which is crucial, is that beginning of this year, 2020, the regional government accepted and approved a regional innovative network for tourism, which means a network that focuses on the important aspect of the triple helix. Within this innovative network, there are the universities of the Veneto region, the different parts then of the academic side, the government, so the public sector, and the enterprises. This was in January 2020. This means that it was quite important to have these instruments for the governance and to react to the crisis. Why? Because each innovative network has to be based on a specific project accepted by the region. In the case of the tourism network, the project is called Smart Land. So it is devoted to improve the new technologies within the region and the digitalization of the enterprises. That is crucial in this phase because everybody within this network has to react and to work in order to create new instruments in order to manage these aspects. So this crucial aspect of network, innovative network based on the triple helix, we consider to be a crucial element also for the restart.
Very good point, and kind of a model for you to export to other countries as well, I think. Okay, Neda, let's hope for a great internet connection now. We are eager to listen to you.
I hope this works better. I have moved away from my office and I'm sitting practically on top of the router. So I hope.
All right, let's hope for it to work.
Okay, so going to the governance, back to the governance model of tourism in Croatia. As I was saying, we have these three parallel, we had before and we do today, have these three parallel pyramid-like systems. And one is, of course, the system that is headed by the National Ministry of Tourism, and then it goes down to the regional level with administrative departments of tourism for different regions, and then it goes down to the local level as well. And they are in charge of the legislative, the regulatory aspects, strategic planning, some product development. Then there's also the second system is the tourism board system, which is headed by the National Tourism Board and down to the regional and local levels. And they're in charge of promotion, marketing. They do some product development also. There's a third system, a wide array of associations that also have this pyramid-like structure. And this is probably familiar to our audience because it's a system of governance that is seen in many other countries as well. With this crisis being a health crisis, other systems have come into play, and this is the Ministry of Health and the Croatian Institute of Public Health. And they're also organized nationally, regionally, and locally. And these systems are working well. There's obviously a lot of expertise between all of them and a lot of manpower that can now be tapped. And what is new and how these systems have been reinforced is that a task force has been put together. It's the Coronavirus Pandemic Control Task Force. And it also, the task forces also have this national, regional, local setup. And the task force is actually, it's a new system, a new part of the system, and it's probably the most powerful right now. So we're seeing a lot of power actually being taken over by this specially designed task for this period, for this time. What we're seeing is that what is different and from before is that we're seeing that things are being much more centralized. The national level is where all the decisions are being made. So when we talk of the task force, of course, the national task force does take recommendations. It even takes requests from the lower level ones, but the decisions of what is going to reopen, under what conditions, all of that is being made at the national level, and then and it becomes mandatory for the subordinate levels to carry out. So one new aspect is this increased centralization in decision making, and another aspect that is different is that even though the task forces are made up of experts from different stakeholders from across the society, the face of the task force are actually, and the people you see on television every evening are the doctors and the epidemiologists. And there is cooperation. We know for a fact there's a lot of cooperation between the epidemiologists and all the different experts, including tourism, of course. And they do take recommendations that have been produced by the experts, but it is the epidemiologists who have the vetoing power. So actually, I've heard numerous times that, you know, people are saying, especially in the tourism industry, that the country is being run by epidemiologists at this point. But there's great public trust towards them, and they have really kind of made us, at least inside, feel safe and feel comfortable. So at this point, it's okay. And we will see, of course, all of this will be reverting back to normal soon, I hope.
Let's hope. Yeah. We'll have to work more than hope, but yeah. I agree. Okay, thank you very much for that. And I like the different approaches. I think that in many countries we're seeing kind of this national pressure, which at the same time is needed and to a certain extent, right? So now we are moving to, let's try to get out of this alive. I'm going to link two of the questions that we had following up, so you can add up the minutes that I gave you for them. In terms of this transformation of companies, of business models, of even venues that they might start measuring fever, which actually many doctors are saying that be careful with that because you're discriminating people as well, in the sense that the virus, you might actually have it and not have fever, and people that has fever might not actually have the coronavirus as the illness. They might have the regular flu or something else. But well, there's a lot of technology coming up, other innovations that are not technology based as well. And I would like to know in that sense what your different parts of the world are doing. So now we start with Neda, if you're okay with that. Sorry, I didn't mention that part and the capacity building linked to it, in the sense that many companies, they're not super ready to, do that jump in terms of transportation, but they need some sort of help. Even these that we are doing now, many companies have started to do it, not webinars, but online meetings, and something that they would have never thought of doing. So it's pretty basic, I know, but not everyone was so digitalized before the crisis started. So just link on the two parts on transformation and capacity building in the question.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Neda.
Okay, so since you mentioned digitalization, I mean, obviously in the past 2 months, that is the transformation that we're seeing, not just in tourism, but we're seeing it in our lives. Basically, we're living our lives in a technological virtual world, or technology-enabled virtual world. Of course, everything's online, and yes, the retail stores have been online for a long, long time. But what we're seeing in Croatia is that farmers are coming online. You can buy any kind of produce from all over the country and have it delivered to your door, all online. Everything. Schools, of course, are online. Theaters, movie theaters, gym centers, everything. So digitalization is something that has really received a push forward through this crisis. But beyond this crisis, digitalization is definitely recognized as one of those key prerequisites for the future development of the country as a whole. Now, if we come back to the tourism sector, I think this question on transformation models, transformative business models must be looked at from two perspectives. And these are the short term and the long term. And right now, as we've mentioned repeatedly through this webinar, the focus is really on the short term. And in the short term, the focus is on survival mode. Everything is being really severely cut. All the budgets are cut. All the planned projects have been postponed. So right now, the changes that we're seeing is, yes, there's more digital communication with the markets, whether it's to promote or to just inform markets. What we're also seeing is that there are changes in operations, in accommodations or in restaurants. There's changes in operations as to procedures that they have to abide by that are prescribed to them by the epidemiologists. Then there will be changes, or there are changes in promotion regarding products we're focusing on. We're definitely focusing now on products such as nautical tourism, the outdoors, the natural products, campsites, where social distancing is possible. So business models, I mean, not to go on in this, but business models are being adapted right now in this sense. But this is not transformation, right? So in the short term, I don't think we can talk of transformation. There simply isn't funding, there isn't manpower, time, nor energy to be actually thinking of transformation right now. And when we talk of transformation, a lot of that is being academic. At the Institute, for example, we think a lot about it, we write about it. It's also the subject of a lot of the editorials, the newspapers. But within the industry right now, there's not that much interest in those topics right now. As a colleague from the hotel sector told us in one of the interviews we did in preparing for this webinar, he said, if the health risks are high, if the virus becomes rampant again, people will not travel, period, no matter what we do and how much we transform and adapt ourselves. But then, of course, there's the long-term perspective. And I think, you know, everybody says that, but it's true. Every crisis is an opportunity. And in looking at it that way, I think this pandemic really may affect and may change, even transform tourism practices. And of course, we can only speculate here. There is a possibility that much will not change and that tourism will be back to normal as soon as a vaccine for this virus is discovered and it becomes just like another flu and nobody thinks about it anymore and everything will go back to normal next year or within minutes. But as I said, I think this crisis does have the potential to transform existing business models because it does have the potential to transform consumers. And it can affect our values, our interests, and thus our behavior as consumers. And so, for example, our relationships towards space will change. I can speculate that they will change. Tightly packed places that we're used to now, such as beaches or museums or restaurants or historical city centers, will become desirable. mass will become undesirable, and it will prompt new spatial standards, obligatory visitor management practices, even different interior design of, I don't know, hotel dining rooms, for example. Our relationship towards the environment may change. When we see how fast the air is cleaning up in major cities across the globe, we become even more sensitized to the plight of this planet and how much it needed this detox, if you will. And as a consequence, we as consumers may be inclined to reward eco-friendly practices in destinations and in tourism facilities to a greater extent. I think our view of social interaction will also change as the result of this pandemic. In many ways, this crisis has brought out the best of us, humanity and creativity. And maybe these values can be translated into preferences for more sincere, more emotional experiences in travel that will transform, that have the capability to transform the tourism offer into a more high-touch offer than before. Of course, our relationship to technology is the most evident transformation already. And when we look at the potential for further technological innovation and advancement, the potential for 5G networks, or for virtual and augmented reality, things like that, there's really no going back. Technologically, this crisis will transform us. So I think, to sum it up, this crisis has not brought transformation necessarily. It has the potential to spark transformative processes that are already present in society and that are already starting to happen. Maybe it has the power to speed them up, and therefore to result in more responsible, more sustainable business models in tourism. At least I certainly would like to believe that and to think that. And let me just finish by saying that two of Croatia's most important strategic documents, namely the Tourism Development Strategy and the Strategic Marketing Plan, are expiring now in 2020. And new documents, new strategies have to be drawn up. And in an interview that I just read this weekend with the director of the National Tourism Board, he said that Croatia needs to transform, that it needs to focus on sustainable development and quality and not on volume. So this is a departure, and let's see what happens. I want to believe him.
Yeah, I want to believe that. That's a religion I will click on. All right, thank you so much, Neda. Okay, Mara.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would like to come back to the concrete aspects linked to the tourism industry in our region and how they are transforming, and if the regional government is helping them and how they are trying to do something in order to increase their capability to react to the crisis. Well, as we know, the difficulty is that we have to speak about small, medium-sized enterprises with difficulty to have all the instruments for digitalization. In our context, I would like to focus on two main elements that the regional government is trying to do. The first one is to implement and to distribute along all the tourism business chain a destination management system, which means that each activity, tourism activity, could use the destination management system that the Veneto region distributes, and so they can also try to be part of a network, if you want. So the objective is to create the ability on the different tourism activities to build up a tourism product. So to create a link among the different activities that can be useful for tourists. For example, to organize an itinerary within the destination. So each specific activity can be able to do that. And this is also an instrument in order to focus on the need to combat, to fight the activity that Booking.com, Airbnb, Google are doing, that sometimes they put together part of the different services and create the tourist product. So this is the first activity. The second one is the development of a federated observatory, which means an observatory in order to create intelligence for the different activities, which is federated in the sense that also in this case, academy, private sector and the central government can work together in order to collect information, to disseminate information, and to create also intelligence for the different activities. So these are two ways through which the regional government is trying to also improve the ability of the tourism enterprises to be part of a competitive system, which is particularly crucial now. Finally, I agree with all the different notes that Neda told us about the difficulty to manage that. But I wanted to focus on these two specific instruments.
Sorry, thank you. So we are looking forward to this intelligence system that also CISET can help brought up to your region, your country, and probably the world as well. So Damià.
Hey, about the question you asked before about the transformation. I'm not going to stop because in many of the points that I had already to share with you, because I think Neda and Mara has explained many of the ones that we also developed, not only from Catalonia, I guess from most of the tourist destinations right now, because they have, most of them have common sense. I just want to add some more ideas, not to repeat the same. One of the aspects is the process of re-engineering that we open with this situation. We are facing a new model, is a new tourism after tourism, in some sense, and this new tourism after tourism accelerates all the process that we had, and that means a continuing adaptation to the system. And that, I don't know if the people is ready for that, if the companies are ready for that. There are huge cruises companies in the middle of the way that will have to adaptate to the continuing changes of what we will find in the sure future. Most of our strategies are thought about 5, 6, 7 years. I just finished to think about, when I think about the time scale, until now I was thinking about months and years, and now I'm thinking about weeks. And I know the week number 35 is in the middle of August, but I just discovered the last week that this is like that. We are learning fastly all these new elements, and we have to integrate all these new elements fastly in a conditions they are not the best, because socially and emotionally are affecting us, the situation. But this is one of the first points. Differently than Croatia, we just started the last year our marketing plan. So we had our marketing plan for the following 4 years. The first aspect that we noticed when we started this situation was we have to throw our marketing plan to the rubbish and rewrite again from the beginning. The third week, we did realize that was not like that. Most of the things that we wrote down in that marketing plan had all the sense, even more now than before. The only difference in this that has to be applied in the fastest way. And that is part that Neda was talking to us. It's something that is really important to consider. This acceleration and the changes now, from this point of view, affects different aspects that until now we knew that we were changing, and most of us were very involved on that. But to be honest, was not very effective into our destinations, which is on one hand the sustainability. So I think that still we had a lot of greenwashing more than deeply commitment of our community in terms to apply the real sustainability. I'm talking about projects that I'm very sure that we'll see in the future about how to manage the carbon footprint. We think that we will see a lot of circular economy projects linked with tourism in the near future. I'm very sure that we will see declarations of social responsibility in terms of our tourism salaries in our sector. I'm very sure that we talk about kilometro zero, and no short distance suppliers. All this stuff, I think, will be accelerated in the short future, and that connects also when we talk about destination, about the another beyond the digitalization, which I think that we've been talking already about the social engineering. No? Here, the ethic of tourism, something will be interesting to prove, to test, and linking with this, I think we will see a lot of tendencies in this transformation about the empathy tourism, turismo empático. It means that the solidarity that now we are seeing among our people, I want to believe that part of that will remain in the type of tourism that we'll do. So now we say messages and campaigns like, did you help? And I think it's something that our clients will ask. Were you there when you had to be there? Because I will be with you. So I think this is important. Our hotels, time for fidelization, stay at home will means also to fidelize all these tourists. Just 3 or 4 points to complement all what the rest of the panelists has been mentioning, and I think the audience could be interested to listen. The microphone.
Sorry for that. Yeah, I'm quite surprised that there are only 2 questions. Usually by this time we have like 20 questions, and I'm very interested in what you're saying. I'm sure it's very interesting. So I'm guessing that the audience is perhaps a bit quiet, or they're waiting for the last part to ask questions. I don't know, but please, you're welcome to pose questions. Anyhow, thank you for the reflection you did already on the marketing part, which is part of the last question that I wanted to pose. But before that, I want to launch a call for our attendees to reply. So the first one is about if they are businesses, whether they have transformed their business model, offering new services or modify their services, whether they've, they think that this is going to be helping businesses to survive. And the last one about sustainability, because I agree with Neda, and I really, really hope that we're going to be, and with what Damià and Mara was saying as well, in the sense that we should be actually believing for real on sustainability, not just talk, and not so much acting. And but let's see if what we think, because there were already studies before saying that demand was sensitive about companies implementing sustainable practices, but many of those demand, when you did further studies in that, were basically not throwing the towel every day, which is, come on, it's like baby step. So I think we can go to further steps there. So the public is already responding, quite inclined to yes in the first question, yes clearly on the second one, and well, saying more interested in the last one. I'll give it a couple of minutes more. While that is going on already, I'm going to move to the marketing question, which you already kind of started answering, Damià. I don't know if you want to complement more, and then Mara and Neda from your countries, in the sense that we've seen a lot of, probably you follow also the SCIF reports, sorry, from kind of quite a US perspective, but still they relate quite a lot of this staycation that you were talking about, Damià, but also kind of many countries and regions and states from the U.S. also, the Puerto Rico, communicating to the world, hey, we are still there, we're still amazing in terms of our beach, and so on and so forth. Even Hawaii had quite amazing videos on, well, if usually you have to be careful when you go into the water in our beach and so on and so forth, now be careful of doing this, that, but in an amazing way, so that you didn't care about anything they were saying about being, cautious. You actually wanted to be in that beach, no? So there's quite a lot of techniques that the different parts of the world have been using, and I wanted to find out what you were, your different regions we're embarking on so far, and where you are envisioning for the short term, because, well, we cannot think long term in this current situation. So Damià, if you want to start.
Yeah, I definitely think that the staycation that we were talking before is something that is used right now because the lack of mobility, and I truly believe that the digitalization will not let to keep thinking and dreaming that once we can, we will fly away again. We try to travel again. I truly believe that this is not going to happen. Perhaps there was another question also linked with this. Perhaps in some of our subsectors, I'm thinking about the corporate tourism. That was a question about that. Perhaps on that could consider part of that business will remain more quiet, because the tools that now we're seeing during these days are proving that many corporate meetings will be able to be developed in your own home, and they will not expose and actually in terms of the cost of for the companies will be reduced with this new technology. We have been seeing examples of 5G technology right now with holograms to create a really virtual visual reality amazingly displayed, and I truly believe that this will be there in the market shortly, and probably that will cut a little bit that part of tourism business. In the leisure point of view, all the activities based on staycation that right now we are using because we cannot do the others, I'm very sure that we will be there, but we'll be there especially in the dreaming process of the customer journey. I think we will improve much more the way that we could stimulate and be sexy to combine people to come to visit us. I truly believe that will work a lot. Maybe not as much during the experience. There are things that we already were developed in terms of the virtual reality for recreations of many of our attractions. Perhaps in that point, perhaps the people will be more looking at the real things, to touch to each other or just to feel to each other. I know because we are Latin, we think more like in that way. But in that aspect, I think we'll be not as developed as the dreaming. And again, with the fidelization, I mean, the post trip will be also a very important moment where the technology also will have a very strong role play in order to keep our destinations in the mind of our tourists. Micro.
Thank you. Yeah. You're best moderator than me. Mara, go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, I'm here. Considering marketing strategies, I have absolutely to confirm what Damià was saying. It's more or less the same for our region, and we are quite similar from these perspectives. What I would like also to add is what I said at the very beginning. So the idea of an experiential tourism, but in our case, one main aspect is doing something. Cooking lessons, for example, distance lessons, cooking lessons, tiramisu lessons, all these aspects that can give the idea also of the enogastronomy side. This is one aspect. The other aspect that we have also noticed in other competitive countries, as it is, for example, for Portugal, to pay attention and to put, to underline the theme once again of the quality of health services. So this is the other, so two contrasting aspects. So the experiential tourism on one side, cooking, doing something together with the chefs, with these people, and on the other side to focus on the quality of services. So to take care of the tourist, starting from each point of view, also the health services. So what we can note now is these are these two paths.
Thank you. Thank you. Agree fully. Neda?
Yes, okay, here we go. Well, as far as the marketing activities that are going on right now, and where we're concentrating our efforts now, the tourism businesses, hotels, marinas, for example, are right now they're focusing on direct marketing with their old guests. That's really direct marketing, all types of newsletters. I mean, their databases are obviously very important and very useful now, but there's a lot of newsletters, a lot of video communication, especially for marinas. I was surprised myself to find out that there's 20 billion euros worth of yachts and boats moored in Croatian marinas. So obviously those people, most of them foreigners, want to know how their boats are doing. So there's been a lot of direct marketing at the level of tourism businesses. On destination level, obviously, because the budgets have been so severely cut, especially for the regional and the local tourism boards, the promotion is really being concentrated at the national level through the Croatian National Tourism Board. And right now, their emphasis, I mean, their budget has also been cut, and their emphasis has been on digital marketing, of course, and they're running campaigns on YouTube, on Instagram, on Facebook. Once the situation normalizes, they will go, that is their plan, they will go back to more intensive campaigns, mostly in nearby markets, and then eventually they will also, not as intensely as before, but they will continue targeting our faraway markets in order to maintain Croatia's presence there, at least. So the channels have been changed towards digital, of course, and the message is being changed. Also, with the emphasis right now being placed on the natural, on the outdoors, on nautical tourism, on culture. And in that sense, there's a couple new campaigns that they have launched. For example, there's a new umbrella concept, hashtag Croatia Long Distance Love, and it's using new videos, profiling gastronomy, nature, active outdoor tourism, and culture. Then there's also a campaign, hashtag CrowFacts, that they've started that communicates lesser known interesting facts about Croatia, just to keep people interested and to keep us in their minds. And the NTO is also participating in some international campaigns. For example, the UNWTO's hashtag Travel Tomorrow campaign, or the European Travel Commission's hashtag Together in Travel Again campaign. So that is what is being done right now. I'm sure that in the future, we will also be turning our marketing more towards what both Mara and Damià have been saying, towards the experiential, towards all the things that people are craving right now. The freedom of movement, exploring of unexplored places, the natural, the healthy, the outdoor. I think that is realistically to be expected as well.
Thank you very much. Yeah, actually, in the very beginning of the conversation this afternoon, Mara was actually talking about off the beaten path already, right? Because of course we know Venice is the city, but there are tons of other places critically important to see, or in Catalonia and in Croatia and many other parts of our world, actually. I wanted to mention one thing before I talk about the polls. So is that there's a study that probably you've read about Focusrite, that they find out that families and people are taking into account 4 variables in order to decide whether to travel abroad or not. This was made in the UK, France, the US, and the variables were, of course, whether they have permission to move to another country, certainly, and even within their country, whether they had the means, because many families have been losing their jobs or are about to lose the job. Third, in terms of health, in terms of will I be putting my family, my friends, or whoever I'm traveling with at risk because I've decided that this was fun to do. And the fourth one that I think is very, very important and is not so much talked about, that is, will I get the 100% of the experience now with the COVID-19 flying around, or should I save my money and once we are all with the vaccine on us, travel? So I think that on the marketing perspective, we have that, those, all of the elements you were mentioning, but this concept of how to make sure this confidence transmitting to the audience that this is even better now than what it was before, in a sense, because you're going to be much less people enjoying the same thing. Either whether it's going through a winery, probably you're going to be much less people than usually you would be, because we're trying to be careful with the health, following the health discipline and rules. So in that sense, we not only have to make them sure about the other variables, but this 100% experience, or even 120 now, I think it's relevant for making people go and overcome the other three variables, mostly the money one and the health one, because the other one we don't have anything to do about, basically, as individuals, be good individuals. So just to share the polls of our audience responding, so we had 38% of the audience responding, saying that basically yes, they had transformed in some way their business, either business model, new services, or modified services. Then yes, they do think that actually transforming is actually going to be helping them survive, and that the demand is actually more interested in, it might be actually more interested in businesses that are implementing sustainability practices. We've been doing this kind of polls in the previous webinars, and when we ask these questions, they were not phrased exactly the same way, but have been having the same results, and the crowds of people in different webinars have changed. So it does seem that sustainability is something that we're moving towards for real, which is great news. So I'm going to move into the questions by super nice people that they're posing a lot of questions. Very nice. So the first one is a great dear friend, Calvin Jones. Big hug to you, Calvin. Hopefully at some point we'll give an actual hug. So he's saying, is anyone in your destinations yet thinking about post or continuing COVID changes for the structure of tourism, right? So for example, instead of regular short breaks to city destinations that might actually seem difficult and very expensive, perhaps more emphasis on longer dwell times as well as staycations. Are you thinking or that this is going to be happening, continuing and post? Who wants to start first? Damià, go ahead. I saw your face.
I just could explain a bit the example of some experiences that now we see in Barcelona. No, most of the tourism apartments that were put in these big platforms right now, because there's no business Many of them, they are moving to the residential contracts, so
Mhm.
they are out of vacation. But then at the same time, we see how many hotels are getting ready to make longer stays programs, because we truly believe that if the people don't want to move too much, to expose too much in the moment of the movement, of the transportation, what would be interesting is that they give a longer holidays in the destination, and to adapt the needs of people. Like where in Barcelona we have many like freelance people that have no problem to work from any part in the world, so they just bring the idea of this part of the market where we could see Barcelona as a place where they could spend 14, 15 days of their life working from here with plenty of facilities and good weather. We're facing our good weather. So this is one of the tendencies that we are observing during this period in Barcelona. It's something important. And about the sustainability, it was a reflection about one of them saying about the sustainability that will be not maybe the priority, because first of all, it's just to save the business. The point is, until now, the push of sustainability was from the offer, was from the destinations for responsibility to save our planet for the future. But I truly believe that now the key will be on the demand, and will be the demand that seriously will ask for little examples that we could relate it to the sustainability itself. So I think that is a big change.
Thank you, Damià.
If I may add to this, and I think there was another question along the same lines before. I don't see one of the first questions, but I think the mass tourism model that we're all a part of, especially us in the Mediterranean, it's going to be difficult to break. It's going to be difficult to move away from. But I believe, and you are really confirming this, and I'm really glad to hear that, a person running Catalonian promotional efforts from Barcelona, which is so much exposed to mass tourism, is thinking along the same lines. But I think the sentiment among the customers is changing, but also sentiment among the local populations is changing. At least we're seeing that a little bit in Croatia, that the local population's relationship to tourism is changing. It's becoming much more critical, and they are also, to put it very bluntly, fed up of this mass tourism model. On the one hand, they're fed up. On the other hand, they still like the income it generates, of course. But I think this sentiment is changing, and it's going to be slow. Getting away from this constant growth, mass, high volume paradigm is going to be probably slow, but it is happening, and it will continue. And I just, we could go on trying to imagine what tourism in the next 50 years will look like. And I don't want to go down that road right now. But I think slowly, we're seeing this transformation, and it is changing, both because it's required by the market and it's also coming from within.
Thank you, Neda. Mara?
I would like to confirm, and I agree with Damià and Neda, also from our perspective and from our specific point of view. If I think to Venice now, it's something incredible, because now we have to speak about the need to reinforce tourism, because till 3 months ago we had to speak about over tourism, about the problems. Now it's exactly the contrary. But when I was speaking about off of the beaten track, this is possible also in Venice, because one of the points, a crucial point of mass tourism, it is not only the congestion in time, but also in space. Just a small part of Venice was congested. So it is possible to do something different also within a city, as it is for Venice, as it is for Barcelona. for sure it will be a completely different tourism because it's a demand-driven element. I totally agree with Damià. And I hope that this could be a real opportunity also for the destination management organizations to come back to these aspects and to organize in a different way also the visit of such destinations. Finally, it is not only an increase of the concept, the concrete concept of sustainability, but it is also responsibility from the demand side that is crucial for that. So absolutely yes, and the first signals are also in our case for a longer stay. Not in the short term because of the difficulties, economic aspects, but in the medium term, it seems that we are going through a different way, also in terms of length of stay. So I agree.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to mix a few of the questions that we have. One of them that is two people are asking basically the same thing in terms of when do you think that this is kind of having a you know, like a magic hysteria. But when do you think that international tourism might actually be opening up? Probably, I would imagine that they mean for Europe, because beyond is even more complicated. Also, in terms of this idea of entering, so opening the borders, but having to stay 15 days when you enter, and probably 15 days back when you come back to your country for quarantine periods, right? So whether you see that, Mohammed Samadi is asking whether you see that as an opportunity for perhaps businesses to, you know, rethink some sort of a offer that they can offer for these kind of clients that might wish to travel internationally but have to go through that. And Marta Dumper, that I send hello to her as well, big hug as well. She's been in next door, so perhaps you know her already. She's asking also about the SMEs in terms of they are now trying to survive, right? So kind of shall they be forced to reinvent themselves? In this line, are you forecasting or thinking in some new type of tourism, new segments, something kind of breakthrough, completely different? And Srinka, a colleague of Neda, hello Srinka, thank you for your questions. Connecting to that, she's asking about the special measures that perhaps can help to this domestic tourism to be developed. That is something that, Damià, you were already at the beginning mentioning as well.
Yeah, attending the last question from Marta, I think it's a really good opportunity for rural tourism and from these open areas because it's the first thing that the word that we also has learned these days, the social distance will mark, and will mark in different ways. When we talk about over tourism, the effort that we were doing in Barcelona to convince the people not to crowd in the same place, trying to put different technology in order to manage the fluxes of people was really difficult. That the fluxes of people itself could follow the orders. So we had to put social agents on the street to find agreements with the tour guides in order that avoid all this crowdness, and that the technology was there. But now the demand, I truly believe that will help us because the own market will mark where they want to be and guarantee that the social distance will take place. And I want to believe that beyond COVID-19, that it remain in some sense in our way to travel. So that I'm sure that we have an improvement in terms of tourism in some parts, and the technology will help us much more to try to manage that. And what was the other question? Yeah, about rural tourism and new types of tourism products. We do identify all these types of tourism. I don't know if this is a type of tourism. All these type of activities or experiences that are very introspective and very emphatic. The emphasis based on mindfulness, based on places where you can find yourself in terms of experimenting these emotions. So that I think that will be attendance in the short period of time, because we have to link our own stretches that we have done during all this period. That's something that appears, and the best place to do it is in those places that guarantee you space, and these spaces, like rural areas, are places, fantastic places for decompression. So I'm very sure that they will find a great opportunity among this type of tourism. Actually, when now we are checking the booking status for summer, we are observing that the indicators about rural tourism for local tourism are much higher than the last year. I'm talking about more than 100% at this point, comparing with the last year. So it seems that the rural tourism has a role play, especially in the beginning of all this process after the post-COVID-19.
Thank you, Damià. I don't know if Neda or Mara want to contribute, or I can pose the last questions, whatever you feel better.
I could just confirm and everything that has been said. I definitely think creative, inventive, off the beaten track, small tourism offer by small SMEs, very high touch, is definitely competitive. It's the key question, of course, is to find your channel towards the market, to find your market niche, to be able to communicate. But I think technology here can help a lot. And I think really that is where the future is, where a lot of development will be happening in the future. And I guess at this point, you know, when things are looking very bleak, it's hard. It's probably easy to be discouraged and to give up. Maybe you don't even have a choice really, but to kind of lay low and because your funds have been cut. But I think really in the long term, this is where most of the development will be happening, and I think it's very exciting. I could really support the person who's the SME person who is asking this question. I would just support your efforts and your initiatives. Somebody was also asking about the 15-day quarantine and if that can be turned into an opportunity. Well, it probably can. I mean, yeah, you could look at it as an opportunity. I don't think it's a very big opportunity. I think this will also, you know, tourism, international tourism will resume as the borders open, and those 4 factors that you were talking about are from that study that they're complied with. And I think the 15-day quarantine will also be done away with at some point. When the borders are opening, they will probably regulate. Maybe they already have. I don't know what the Brussels meeting today is going to bring, but maybe, I mean, those 2 things, opening of borders and the quarantine, will kind of go simultaneously. They will be dealt with. Maybe the quarantine will be a way to kind of disencourage travel from certain countries, but it will be done away with as well. So I wouldn't bet on the quarantine as the great opportunity.
Yeah, me either.
Yeah.
Even for business tourism, sorry, Mar, even for business tourism, I travel a lot for business, for you know, technical assistance of the UNTITO and other entities. Imagine anybody paying for me with my Spanish passport, having, you know, 15 days to be paying for me to do, you know, whatever work virtually that I can do, but somewhere else, and then to come back as well. So it's a lot of money just for the business perspective. So I don't even imagine it for the leisure perspective. Sorry, Mara.
No, yeah, it was just to reinforce this fact of the quarantine. It is quite complicated. It's a trade-off between the time that you need to stay and the money that you have to spend for that. But just to main other aspects that I would like to underline. The first one is about the possibility also for destinations to work in terms of deseasonalization, one of the problems they have is to prolong the seasonality. Maybe this is a good opportunity to work in that direction and to allow tourists to find good proposals also out of the peak season. That is linked also to what Damià was saying. The other aspect, rural tourism, etc., what we consider relevant is the concept of landscape tourism, which is in French terroir, and in Italian paesaggio culturale. So, which is the mix. It is not only rural, it is not only green, it is not cultural, but it's a mix. It's a countryside full of cultural aspects. So what we observed is that this is one of the motivations, types of tourism with an increase really important, because it mixes and it considers also the identity of the destination, of the place, and it is able to link not only the visit itself, but, for example, also the shopping, the typical products, the crafts, etc. So what we consider crucial also for the restart is this concept, landscape tourism.
Thank you very much. There was a question by Strinka about cruise tourism, but I think that we can be talking 1 hour about that. So, because I mean, so I'm sorry for that. It's 6:29. I don't want to steal more time from you, as I promised, 1 hour and a half. So, well, thank you very much for all your sharing of knowledge. With this, the highest audience time was 88 people. So thank you very much to all the audience that were there with us. In case you are curious, 26% of the audience was public administration, 13% consultancy, 11% education, 7% tourism offices, accommodation 6%, and so on. So of course, destinations were also part of the audience mostly. So thank you. So thank you, because you were the actual, drivers of people interested in hearing you. So thank you. I will ask you to smile to the camera, because we're gonna take a picture now. Perfect. Thank you so much for that. And I want, before saying our goodbyes, I just want to invite you to our next webinar. Damià, I think you're going to know one of the persons involved. Just in case, just in case you have the time, you're going to see in a second.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, someone sounds familiar. Well, more than one. Yeah.
So it's thank you for your perspectives on the European perspective. We're gonna have another session with another partners, Patrick Torrent, president of Nextdoor, Juan Requejo, a great friend, a consultant as well, and Oscar Perelli, director of research of Exceltour, like the huge lobby from the Spanish tourism businesses. So thank you. You've been amazing. Thank you for your time, and hope to see you and hug you at some point.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye. Take care. Bye.
Bye.